So let's start this discussion. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Entab CampusCare EdTalks Student Special Edition. Today we have some young, great minds from schools all over the country to share their viewpoints and experiences with us. So, before moving forward, let me introduce you to Entab. With an experience of 21 years, Entab has been associated with over 1,500 schools spread across India, evolving them to become new age digital campuses by providing them mature and futuristic ERP, CRM, and mobile apps. In today's session, we'll discuss about the farmers' protest and how we can resolve it. We'll understand about the new farm bill and what it proposes. We'll also learn about the possible ways to help the farmers and the government to come on mutual consent and end the protest. So, we would start with the discussion, and the first question our audience would like to know is what is your understanding about the new farm bill? And then we can start with Ashiti Banerjee. Ashiti, please go ahead. Please share your views on this.
So I'm Akshiti Banerjee, and so rightly said by John F. Kennedy, the farmer is not only a man in our economy who buys everything at retail, he sells everything at wholesale and pays the freight both ways. We all know that in the past, namely 5 to 6 years ago, almost 3 lakh farmers had committed suicide. Farming is not a common occupation anymore. However, in India, more than 70% of the population live in the rural areas, and thus the main occupation for most of them is agriculture. Even so, their contribution to India's GDP is only about 16%, which further keeps on decreasing year by year. Thus, to increase the efficiency of farming and provide aid to the farmers, the BJP government had introduced 3 bills, namely the Farmers' Produce and Trade Commerce, the Farmers' Empowerment and Protection, that is, Agreement of Price Assurance, and the Essential Commodities Bill. With the assent of the President, Mr. Ramnath Kovind ji, on 27 September 2020, these bills became legal acts. Now, since 26th November 2020, the borders of Delhi have been witnessing a huge agitation that is being carried on by farmers, and most of them belong to Punjab and Haryana. The farmers are namely protesting against 2 bills. That is, the farm bills that the Rajya Sabha recently passed, that is the Farmers' Produce Trade and Commerce and the Farmers' Agreement on Price Assurance and Farm Service Bill of 2020. The 2 bills were already cleared in the lower houses, that is the Lok Sabha, but when they were introduced in the Rajya Sabha, there was a ruckus. However, it was passed through a voice vote, but in much hurry without any proper deliberation. There are surely certain problems in the bill, and there are positive aspects too. My point of view is that these farm bills should have been passed after much deliberation from both the houses of the parliament and with suggestions and inputs from the committees, like the Standing Committee on Agriculture and the various other farmer organizations, which would have made it a better success.
Okay. Thank you so much, Akshiti. So now we would love to hear the views of Tarini. Yes, Tarini?
Hello, everyone. My views on the farmers' protest. The farmers' protest has been going on for quite some time. On March 9, it has marked its 100th day. And it's still been going on with quite some vigorosity. The background of the farmer bill is that the farmer bill has 3 main bills in it, namely the trade and commerce, the empowerment and protection, and the commodities amendment. In this one, most of the farmers fear that the MSP or the floor price might be removed and the APMC or the Agriculture Producers Committee might be disbanded. And because of this, the protest has been going on for quite some time.
Okay. Thank you, Tarini. Next, Vihan, do you agree that one of the main problems in the new farm bills is that it only focuses on marketing, whereas farmers face a lot of challenges in inputs, production, and quality. So, what do you feel about it?
Yeah, I do agree to a certain extent that that is the case that we are seeing right now. But along with marketing, there are also many benefits to the bill. For example, for up and coming farmers, India faces a huge number of landless farmers. So those landless farmers have an opportunity with this bill to sell at prices which are fair to them and fair to the public as well. However, I do agree that there is a certain need for marketing with the removal of the APMC mandis, as a fellow person told as well. The removal of APMC mandis, the price has been deregulated to an extent, and even outside the committees, there are provisions to give prices which are lower than the mandi as well, which do affect the current farmers, and thus there is a great need for marketing for them to sell their produce, which was not the case before the bill. That is the main problem which has led to these protests. And moreover, the challenges in inputs production quality, there have been provisions by the Indian government as well, with the introduction of GMOs, which are genetically modified crops as well, which have contributed and resistance to droughts and scarcity of fertilizers as well. These GMO crops and the technological advances have benefited the farmer to an extent. However, with these bills, it is true to a certain extent that marketing has become the major role player, which facilitates the sale of produce.
Okay. Thank you, Vihan. Next, I would love to hear the views of Srijani. Yes, Srijani, what do you think about it?
Okay, so the new farm bill focuses more about marketing, and it misses out the key problems like high dependence on monsoon, inadequate access to irrigation. These are the general challenges that are faced by the cultivators. Then there is the corporatization of agriculture. This I think it cannot benefit the small and marginal workers, because the small farmers will not be able to buy farm inputs like seeds, because it is out of their reach, and the farmers fear that the big corporates will exploit them and determine the crop prices. So to implement these laws, before implementing these laws, the government can ensure that the floor price is at par with the minimum support price, the MSP, and the problem of the small farmers can be meted out by the KCC scheme, Kisan Credit Card Scheme.
Right.
It would raise the monthly income of the farmers, and the farmers will be able to afford the purchase of seeds, fertilizers, and pesticides besides the production needs. And another is the use of agricultural technology and the artificial intelligence, which will predict the right time to sow seeds and warn on pest attacks. So it will enhance the crop productivity and reduce wastage. So I think these all should be ensured by the government in the farm bill. This can be added by the government.
Okay, thank you, Srijani. Thank you. So next, Sneha. Sneha, what do you think about it? Yes, Sneha?
Yes, so hello, I'm Sneha. So I also agree in that farmers also face a lot of challenges, and you know that small farmers have do not provide any facilities about that, and big farmers and marketers provide lot of benefits in that bill, and small farmers also have that not a facilities about this. Yeah, that's all about my point of view.
Okay, thank you, Sneha. Thank you. Next, we would love to hear the views of Shraddha. So, Shraddha, I just want to ask you, what is your understanding about corporation? Like, what do you think that corporation will affect the agriculture sections, especially the small and marginal farmers? And yes, they will get lost in the crowd. So, what do you feel about it?
So, corporatization basically is when the big companies start taking over the agriculture sectors. So, what I feel like is that the big companies may exploit the farmers, but that is a may that we will never get to know. The big companies, they have high capital, so they can actually bear risk to a minimum of extent. Unfortunately, the farmers can't do that. So this corporatization is too big a risk to actually handle. So what I'm thinking is that rather than stripping down the system that we have actually created, all these APMC and everything, rather than stripping them down and creating a whole new system, improvements which was made on the first system itself will have a large benefits for all the farmers. And also the small and the marginal farmers, as you said, won't at least be they won't be lost in the crowd, and they'll also be benefited from them. Yeah, so yeah, that's it.
Yes, and also Shraddha, like I would like to add कि yes कि क्या होता है कि because of corporatization, right? What happens? The farmers, they are being pressurized by the corporations, and they are paid lower prices of their products, and they pay higher prices to the corporations. And इस वजह से क्या होता है कि the higher profits are earned by the corporations, but all the risk which is there, it is then वो farmers bear करते हैं वो risk, right?
Yeah, right.
So
I'd like to add on to your point, ma'am. Shall I go ahead?
Okay, just go ahead. Yes.
Do make use of is predator pricing as well. They start off with prices which are at such an irrationally low level that people are incentivized to buy from them, and as soon as the farmers and the small businesses are out of the market, they steadily increase their prices to the point which was above your initial cost. So using predatory pricing, they drive out small businesses while affecting the farmers, the small business, and the consumer at the end of the day, which is another malpractice that these corporates regularly engage in.
Absolutely right. Absolutely. This is being practiced. Yes.
I want to add something.
Yes, please go ahead.
Corporatization can also solve the problem of small and uneconomic holdings by pooling the small and the large scale farming, such as reduce cost, adding mechanization, scientific cropping management, and better price realization for the product also. This point can't be ignored, na?
I would like to also
Ma'am, even I would like to add.
Okay, just one by one, you can just share your views. Yes, just one by one.
While I see where Shraddha is coming from when she says that corporatization is too big a risk to take, I would like to point out that the role of the corporates is very essential in making agriculture in India more structured. Because according to me, one of the biggest problems Indian agriculture is facing is the fact of the hoarding or the surplus production that is getting wasted. There is enough production happening, but the government does not have enough storage facilities. According to a government report, in fact, as of May 2020, 71.8 tons of grain got wasted or partially damaged. So what I think is, if corporates are involved, as in there is the provision that has been made in the first bill. In case of surplus production, the farmers could always sell their produce to these corporates. And since these are big agriculture-based businesses that I'm talking about, like Reliance Retail or Big Basket, they will have proper storage facilities. So thereby, even in case of surplus production, the produce will not go in vain and the farmers will get their pay because of the role of the corporates.
Yes, we can involve the corporates, but I think to eliminate this problem, the government can set a certain price. Like at this certain price, they can purchase the products or they can sell their products to the corporates.
Ma'am, may I add something?
Yes, Aditya, please go ahead.
Actually, according to the bill number 21 of 2021 Lok Sabha, there would be an agreement between the farmers and the corporate companies, and that agreement will be done before the sowing of the seeds.
Yes.
So in that agreement, the price will be mentioned properly, and it can also be mentioned like that 10% more than the MSP of that time of the harvest. And like this, there will be a security of price, and the corporates cannot give low price to the farmers. They have to give that price that is mentioned in the agreement. And if somebody does not follows that, then there are three small courts are set up for farmers only to resolve these issues.
Also, according to me, I don't think that the big companies would want to get produce that is bad or low in quality from the farmers. So it has also been mentioned in one of the bills that the organizations will provide certain fertilizers, crop monitoring, and loans, and certain other aids to the farmers so that maximum produce of good
Quality
quality
production
is
would be there.
ensured.
Yes.
Ma'am,
Ma'am, I would like to add something.
Okay, yes.
Corporate also provide facilities like crop insurance and climate resistant from technologies, which can greatly reduce the risk of uh, crop reduction.
Okay.
So, ma'am, jumping in on this particular part, ma'am, what I feel about when we talk about the corporatization of this particular policy at hand, we have to understand that the main contention that exists in this particular scenario is between the competition in the free market and in a regulated market, right? So when the private companies are involved in a particular market, it changes into a free market rather than a regulated market. So, ma'am, the main problem that arises in these particular scenario is, and the tax rates are not particularly subsidized in this particular instance. So what happens is, when the companies approach to a certain farmer, as one of the speaker already suggested, the main problem is they try to exploit the farmer in the sense that they do not have a certain tax rate or a support price through which they will buy. So, and since there is an open market competition, the farmers want to sell off their produce at as much low cost as possible, and as the end result of which, what happens is they end up selling that entire produce at a much lower cost than what they required in order to produce that particular aspect. So, ma'am, this is the concept that needs to be highlighted when we talk about the privatization and the public policy sector of the agricultural department.
Okay.
Ma'am, instead of
Ma'am,
cancelling
can I add on something?
Yes, just Pragati, just she was trying to say, so just let's give a chance to Pragati, then we'll move to you, okay?
Ma'am, I want to add on, like it is said that they will go in a legal contract with the farmers, the companies, but the legal contracts will be very complicated for the farmers because most of the farmers are not very educated in our country, and moreover, even for the educated people, while reading a contract, it becomes very difficult, especially the terms and conditions mentioned. We even find it difficult to read. So, how can a farmer deal with the corporate companies having a very powerful legal backups with them? And even if they enter into a contract and something backfires for the farmer and they will be fighting for them in the court, that is quite difficult and a very lengthy process that will ruin in the long term of the farmers. So we cannot ignore that fact that the farmers will be harmed by the legal framework thing if they could not.
May I answer to her?
Yes, may I know who's this?
Manasvi.
Yes, Manasvi.
So,
Let's go ahead.
Pragati mentioned about the contracts that they can be exploited, the farmers can be exploited. I agree. So, what provisions can be made here that the contracts can be made in regional languages through which the farmers can understand it very well and they know what they are signing up for. And also one more point, she said that it is going to be a long process. So what I think is that the government can have intermediate officers that are going to be between the company and the farmers, which can provide best advices to the company as well as the farmers and prevent them from not being exploited. And I also heard many speakers say about MSP and APMC market. So I would like to share my point of view on that. So I would like to say that the government claims, that MSP and APMC are going to continue. They are not going to take away that incentive from the farmers. So I clearly think there's a misunderstanding that needs to be cleared.
Ma'am, I had a counter argument to this. So, ma'am, the speakers here are suggesting the solution that they need to the farmers and the merchants need to form a particular agreement, right? So, ma'am, the main problem that arises in this scenario is that most of the farmers in India are, first of all, not educated enough to get into a legal contract with a certain merchant or a private entity as big as, say, Reliance or whatever the private stakeholders are. So, ma'am, in this particular scenario, why is the government not jumping in order to regulate? Because the more easier way out out here is to regulate the markets and set down a particular MSP. If they want to get into a legal contract, why is the government not getting involved and setting down the particular guidelines and regulations required in order to negotiate the prices?
I would like to answer
I agree.
Devam's question.
Yes, yes, Mansi, please go ahead.
But many people said, including Devam, that most of the farmers in India are not literate enough to enter in such legal contracts. Provision has been clearly made for that in the second bill, that local dispute settlement mechanisms will be formed by the government to settle disputes, if any arise, during the legal contract formation and even after the contract has been formed.
I like to add on. I like to add on to Mansi's point that in the history history has been a witness to the fact that whenever there is.
See you.
May I?
Yeah, actually there is a power cut, so I can't really switch on my video right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so history has been a witness to the fact that whenever there has been a legal battle between the big guy and the corporation and the small farmer, it has always been the case, more often than not, that the corporation has emerged victorious. That is a direct result of their immense resources which they can employ versus the small resources that a farmer might have. So even though there are provisions, the provisions have not been proven to be as effective as the government would like it to be.
I think so. Agreement process should be become easy, and we should spread awareness about it.
Okay, so just one by one, guys. Just hold on. One by one, you can share your news.
Ma'am, may I add on?
Okay, go ahead. Who is this? Aditya, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, go ahead.
Actually, government is setting many centers for education of farmers, education related to the farming. Like it not only consists of scientific aspects like weather and how to use fertilizers and many other things about scientific cultivation, but also now they will also teach about the legal aspects and what are the rights of the farmers and what are the facilities provided by the government. Like government is providing 6,000 rupees per year, and actually many farmers in some areas do not know that this scheme, and especially in the areas where the government is of opposition, especially in West Bengal, where the state government has stopped that 6,000 rupees for the farmers. Now the government is setting up more and more institutions. They will tell their rights, the legal rights, and also educate them, and they will teach them how to make a contract, and they will interfere if there will be any problem.
Okay, so
yes,
what
I would like to add on. Ma'am, can I add answer to his question?
Can I speak?
Point?
Who is this? Who is this, guys? One by one. Okay, I'll just. Pehle, yes, Pragati, you can go. Then after Pragati,
and I would like to speak.
I want to also like to some add point.
Okay, first of all, Pragati, you go ahead.
Ma'am, I would like to say that it is true that the government is helping to power the farmers by educating them, but that is still a long process and not very effective. As we see, as we go, how many of those centers are still working for the farmers? Like they are not everywhere in the country. And moreover, like this Farm Act was brought to the previous problems that were faced by the farmers in the already existing system that the APMC mandis were having. So the APMC mandis were also not something that was very good for the farmers, because the small farmers were still exploited in the previous system, and that is the main issue, that in the new system that they are trying to bring up, there is no major concern about the farmers, the small farmers especially. The corporatization is also very beneficial for the big farmers, not especially for the small ones. So that is the issue that they need to address. Moreover, the government, how they have brought up these bills, there is a lack of communication between the farmers and the government, that still they are protesting because they don't know exactly what the laws are, many of the farmers.
Exactly, the farmers are not aware. Like पिछली बार मतलब there was news उसमें था कि उनको farmers को पता ही नहीं था कि वो protest कर क्यों रहे हैं, because they are not clear about the bill. So I suppose proper communication होनी चाहिए, and plus proper क्या कहते हैं education. Like we should spread awareness and properly educate them. So
I think the government should take into considerations what the farmers are proposing. So right now, the MSP can be only relied upon by only 6% of the farmers in India, not all. And these 6% only belong to Punjab and Haryana. So the farmers' organizations are demanding that the MSP should be decided according to the Swaminathan Commission report. That is 50% profit should be given to the farmers. And also, now the farmers' organizations are demanding that the government procurement of all of these crops and the getting MSP, it should be made a legal right of the farmers. So I think these inputs and suggestions from the farmer and the farmer organizations should be taken into consideration, and the government needs to earn the trust of the farmers for them to actually agree with whatever they are proposing. So the communication has to be there.
I agree with the fact that the MSP should be
Shraddha, one by one, guys, I'll just call your name. Shraddha,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just thinking about what Mansi said previously, like the earliest after I said. She said about the thing like corporation and cold storage and things. But what I'm saying is, farmers nowadays, they don't even earn enough to support themselves. They don't even have money for surviving, not even for basic needs. So, in what context do they actually need cold storage for? So what they actually have to do is concentrate on those small farmers, and they have to pay attention to them, and at least so that they get a decent bearable amount for their survival. And I don't think now is the time to actually like corporatize everything, develop everything. First we need to clear all the mess for the farmers to support themselves without any help, and then I think we can move on to the next stage, such as cold storage, warehouse, and last corporatization.
Okay.
I agree with the fact, and I completely advocate the use of MSP as a legal right, and MSP should be a legal right that should be enforceable in a court of law.
Ma'am, can I just add on to Shraddha's point a little bit?
Ma'am, I want to add.
Ma'am, I want to say
Ma'am, I
something.
want to also add something.
Okay, Sneha, go ahead.
Akshiti,
First of all, Sneha will go, then Ramit will go, and then Pragati. Okay, in this order we'll go. Okay, Sneha, go ahead.
Ma'am, actually, ma'am, in my state, ma'am, farmers will not educated like that. And ma'am, जो small farmers हैं, ma'am, उनको मैम एजुकेट नहीं किया जा रहा है. और मैम ये जो मार्केट डीलर्स हैं बड़े बड़े मैम, जैसे कि बिग फार्मर्स हैं मैम, सिर्फ उन्हीं को देखा जा रहा है इन सब चीज़ों में. और मैम मेरे स्टेट में तो मैम जो बीजेपी वगैरह है मैम, वो देख ही नहीं रहे हैं. एंड मैम जो मैम स्मॉल फार्मर्स जो हैं मैम, वो एजुकेटेड नहीं है मैम. ये सब वो फैसिलिटीज का मैम फायदा नहीं उठा पा रहे हैं, जो कि
That's what we are saying कि educate हमें करना चाहिए. Like they should know कि जैसे
this is a big process. Ma'am, this is a big process. And ma'am, और मैम इसमें
it will take a time. Education will take
yes, ma'am, and the quality of education can't exactly be
set up a body that will ensure that they are getting they are understanding what the government
can't exactly
is
be
trying
monitored
to
since the scale is such. The quality of the education is a big prospect which
Because,
cannot be
many
controlled by
of
the
them
government.
Hold on.
Ma'am, till how many years
What is-
a farmer will be deprived
what
of
the
his
list-
hard-earned money?
Agriculture is a subject of state list, ma'am.
Ma'am, we
So,
have to educate
state
farmers,
government
or
control
we have to
चाहिए, but ma'am,
implement
government
some laws for them.
Okay,
It's not
okay.
good
So
for farmers to deprive them
I
of
would
their
really
rights.
like to make a point.
Ma'am, can I just add?
Ma'am,
Okay.
so ma'am, basically the thing is when we talk about education and the plans that all the other speakers are suggesting, ma'am, it's important that we educate the farmers, but it's also important that this is carried on in tandem with the government's budget, right? Because it's the duty of the government to ensure that the farmers are educated enough in order to carry this system down in a much more regulated manner. Because if there is no regulation at the end of the day, we have to understand that the private companies have much more resources when it comes to taking down legal battles or exploitation. So education needs to happen in tandem with the government policies itself.
Okay, so now we
I'd
would
really like to make a
Ma'am,
point
law
here, if I may go
has
ahead.
the land of farmers, especially.
Mansi.
Land can't be
Okay, Mansi, go ahead.
lost.
Guys,
Just first of all, I'd like to say that I completely agree with Devam's point that the education of the farmers, the awareness needs to go along in tandem with the laws. But what I also gather from what many people are saying is that the farmers are facing a lot of more problems in terms of production, input, investment. What I would like to say, and and they're saying that the government should make more laws or make clauses for that too. But what I want to say is that there have already been many bills and acts in the past few decades, like the KCC scheme, the Union Agri Services scheme, the farm mechanization scheme, the gold loan scheme. The problem is not enough acts or enough actions that the government is taking. The problem is the poor implementation. So instead of introducing more and more bills and acts in this area, the government should make efforts to accurately implement the schemes that have already been introduced.
Existing schemes, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Ma'am, I want to say
So
something.
adding on to this,
Ma'am, according to me,
okay.
ma'am, solution is just corporatization.
Yes, I completely agree with the point that.
Can I just add on about, like,
Yes,
we all are talking about the bills that these bills are bringing about the marketing, but the root cause that I see is the high production cost that the farmers are having, because of which they need high prices for selling. In terms, if we focus on the root cause, that is the high production cost, is because generally after the green revolution there has been a decline in the fertility. So the more use of fertilizers, the more and more input they need to do on the field to get a better yield, and that is not very profitable for them. That is why they need loans at the initial level. So instead of like focusing on the outputs of the thing, like the production high price, they should sell their product at high price. They can cut up the cost. Like they could like the government has already some introduced some policies regarding this. Farmers, the technology, the use of technology could be very well can be included, like various institutes in the country, like the ISC, the Bangalore,
yes,
the cultural institutes can come up. Like there has not been a proper framework for the institutes to coming up and helping the farmers. Although there are some initiatives, but they are not very organized. And what the government needs to do is to bring up some a concrete law or a concrete act they should bring up, or a campaign that would allow the farmers and these institutes to work together in a cooperative way, so they can just they should just cut off their costs, so the profit will automatically increase, not just only focusing on the second aspect of this thing, that only the prices they are getting should be high, but also the cost that they're spending should be low.
Okay. So now we
I'd like
will
to agree,
just,
and I'd like,
guys,
like to add on.
ऐसे ना ये चलती रहेगी. So let's do one thing. Just we'll move to next question. Okay.
Okay.
So like according
Yes,
to you, like मैं ना question बोलूंगी, then I'll just मैं guys आपका एक एक करके नाम लूंगी, then only you need to share your views. बीच बीच में ऐसे बोलोगे मुझे कुछ सुनाई नहीं देगा कि सब इकट्ठे बोल पड़ोगे, ठीक है? So just wait for your turn. I'll just speak out your
yes.
name and then you can share your views. Okay. So next, according to you, how can one of the main issues in the farm bill, that is MSP, can be solved? And one by one, just a second, I'll just say your name and we can start with Aditya Arora. Yes.
So MSP is the major issue in India, and first of all, it cannot be resolved by making a law. There are 21 crops in which government give MSP rates, but only two, that are wheat and rice, or we can say paddy, are bought more than 90% by the government only, and rest 21 are not bought by government completely. So if we make a law on MSP, a legal law, then government has to buy all 21 crops, and for this all 21 crops there would be an estimate is around 17 lakh crore rupees would be spended on buying the crops only. After that, on the cold storage and the transportation, it would reach around 20 lakh crore, and that was not the package of COVID relief. That was not such big, and we cannot afford, our country cannot afford such a big amount. But if we add private companies in this, they will help the flow of money into the farming sector. When the money will come, new cold storages will be set up, and the farmers will get more money, and they will become a kind of a rich, because there will be a competition between the private companies. For example, Walmart and Big Bazaar, they both need to sell grains. Now the winner will be the winner will sell more grains. Now how to be a winner? They need more grains. For buying more grains, they have to pay higher, and within this competition, the high prices will reach to the farmer, and they will get prices more than MSP automatically. But making a law on MSP is not a solution, and it is impossible. And this privatization can solve the problem of MSP. Now, there are three main aspects of economic development: LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Now, government has done liberalization and privatization by these two laws. Liberalization is like there are no interest rate taxes, fees, IGST is now no more present on the transfer of food grains and the crops. And privatization, now the private companies are allowed to buy the crops from the farmers. Now, if they will get more money and they will buy new equipment, the cost will automatically go down. Then already they will globalize. Liberalization and privatization are done first, then only globalization can be reached. And when globalization is reached, new MNC will come, and MNCs will reach the our farmers like they're doing in China and USA. Now some say that small farmers cannot afford this. In July this year only, this month only, government has created a ministry, cooperative ministry, under the leadership of Amit Shah. And this cooperative ministry tends to bring small farmers together, pool their resources, and when they pool their resources, automatically production will go high, and they can do a contract with the private companies and MNCs, and they can easily sell. And cooperative is the most successful, one of the most successful method. Like we have seen, Amul is a cooperative, and we can see how much bigger a brand Amul is today. And in China also the corporatization has been started. And
I would like to add something.
Just let him complete, then you can add.
China, which is a communist government, they do not usually favors the privatization, but this time they also agreed that for improving agriculture, privatization and liberalization need to be applied, like it has been applied in Canada and America.
Okay, yes.
If we bring privatization in agriculture, then there will be a problem that the APMC market will get slowly dismantled. And this is a problem because private companies may not offer the prices to the farmers that is at par, that is equal to the MSP, the minimum support price. It can be below MSP. So I think the government must ensure that the government that the crops are not sold below the MSP, and it should be above or at par with the MSP now.
I want to say something.
Okay,
Ma'am, I'd like to add something as well.
Guys,
I'd
just
like
a
to add
second.
something as well.
Please maintain the decorum. I'll just say your name, then one by one you can speak, okay? So, Bhavisha, you want to say something? Please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Finally, I got the chance.
Okay.
I'm actually in this battle of being loudest. We are forgetting what we ourselves want to say. Like, if this act is really for the farmers, getting their concern is valid. Like, we can. But people are seeking for their own political interests, and they are not they are avoiding all the points that are related to small and landless farmers. I personally think that MSP is a concern which is not it can't be genuine, because it just gives a false guarantee to the farmer. It doesn't provide it a profit which can be given to the farmer. So I think that MSP is a good concern, but it doesn't give equality to the farmer.
So one way we can fix that is by making
Ma'am, I'd like to add on to something as well.
Just a
That
second,
MSP
hold on,
not
guys.
necessarily can be.
Vihan, hold on.
Yes.
Okay, now we can go with Akshiti. You want to say something?
As Bhagisha said, that MSP is a problem right now. So the farmers have already demanded that they want the MSP to become a legal right. The government said that they will give a written statement, but they will not make MSP a legal right. I do not understand what is the problem with making MSP a legal right of the farmers, because if that is done, then a certain amount of money is guaranteed to the farmers, even if their produce is not that much. So I think it should be made a legal right.
Okay.
May I please
now,
Already
guys,
told
wait.
lakh crore is
I'd like to
required
add on
to
something
Wait.
as well.
Pragati, go ahead.
Ma'am, I would just like to add to the information of everyone that MSP already is not somewhere in the act or in any of the context. There is no statement in the legal acts that government is obliged to pay MSP to the farmers, and already twice a year the government is still announcing the MSPs. So it is something that is done for more for the farmers, like for their political agendas also, because they say that हम MSP कम कर हम आपको MSP अच्छी देंगे, so you vote for us. So that is also something like the political point of view they are taking up MSP. Moreover, giving MSP also creates a different problem that people generally see the MSP. Okay, we'll produce this thing, and even if the quality is not low, government को तो हमसे खरीदना ही पड़ेगा, and the government buys that all thing from the taxes that the taxpayer pay. So that is also a problem. We still need to remember that also the other section, while focusing on one section, we cannot forget the other section of the society is also suffering from that. So instead of setting up like MSP को आप legal कर दो, they should bring up something, a better version, like they should provide if suppose the crop fails, so they can give insurance in a better way, not just कि उनकी कैसी भी produce हुआ है तो आपको MSP देना ही देना है, like they just produce it as
Okay, so just guys, let her complete. Please maintain the decorum. Let her complete.
And then I would like to say something about it.
After Pragati, Lavanya will go. Okay, Pragati, just continue.
Yes, for just 2 minutes more.
Yes, Pragati, continue.
Yes, but moreover, like the farmers, they are some farmers, the big farmers, and moreover, MSP is not given to the small farmers. When they go to the market, there is always a middleman. Like there are already farmers stating that whenever they get even the MSP price from the government, it is even less than what is actually offered to them because of the middlemen of the APMC mandis. So that is also not a perfect system that is working presently for the farmers. So there should not be something. There should be a more innovative plan that should be that we should bring forward for the farmers. Not just the existing thing keeps going on.
Okay, so now Lavanya, please go ahead. Lavanya, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. I also agree that the new reforms also should be taken, ma'am. But if the government dismantles the MSP system, instead of reforming it, the millions of farmers will be forced to sell their products to just a very few to big agribusiness corporations. So that's what the new reforms are revealing, ma'am. So of course, new reforms also should be taken, but MSP is also needed for supporting the farmers, because only MSP is given for only both wheat and rice, not for all the crops. So MSP is needed like other reforms.
Okay.
Like insurance in KC.
Yes, Lavanya, go ahead.
Like she said, insurance is also given by the government, like KCC, Kisan Credit Card, ma'am. It gives like fire insurance, death. They also it increases the farmers' monthly income by 35%. It increases the farmers' income. So, and it is also needed by easing out that KCC. It won't be better, ma'am.
Okay, so now Kanishka, please. Kanishka,
I'd like
please.
to.
May I also please?
Kanishka, please go ahead.
Point.
Guys, hold. Kanishka, just share your views.
Ma'am, according to me, the new reforms that are taking place are important because
Kanishka, पहले आप अपना कैमरा स्विच ऑन करो, मैं आपको देख नहीं पा रही हूँ.
Ma'am, it is on.
No, it's not on. I'm not able to see you.
Ma'am, I think there is some technical glitch with it.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, I think that the new reforms are important because with time we need to change our policies, we need to change ourselves. But changing does not mean bringing a complete change in things, and what we have completely reversed that because it has been going since so long. Making people aware of new things is good, but changing the aspect and bringing a whole new thing is difficult. According to me, MSP is very important for the farmers to make them bring in a confidence that
they would not face any crisis in the future even if the demand falls. And I suggest that MSP should be kept as a universal floor, like as a budget based line, that the price should not fall below this, so that they have some confidence that even in the crisis and the grief, they are provided with some help by the government, some subsidy, so that they could even agree to the new reforms that are coming.
Okay, okay.
Please allow me
I
to
like
say
to add on.
something.
Now may
I like to say something
Guys,
as well.
guys, just hold on. You can't interrupt when someone is speaking. You can't interrupt in between. So just wait for your chance. Just raise your hand, and when I'll call your name, then only speak. Otherwise, don't make it a chaos, okay? So just remember, just raise your hand physically, and I'll tell your name, and then you can speak. Otherwise, ऐसे बहुत chaos मच जाएगा, किसी की chance नहीं आ पाएगी, right? So we'll move to the next question. So according to how do you think like KCC Kisan credit card norms can be eased out, and banks should have a provision of giving certain percentage of loan amount to the agriculture sector? So just a second, we can go with Tarini. Yes, Tarini, go ahead.
Ma'am, KCC credit can actually be the best alternative for MSP. Since MSP, some people are saying that we need to legalize MSP, but that should be avoided since it will deliberately destroy the economics of India. And since people will be over reliant over the legal MSP, then people will not care about the produce of the crops or whatever, and then there will be a serious lack of competition inside India and outside the market of India. So I first believe that MSP should not be legal. And coming to the KCC credit, as a person said that the KCC credit, if given ease to the norms, can help raise the income of the farmers by 35%, which means from 9,500 to 12,825 rupees. And by giving some small provision in the bank to the agriculture sector, that will help even more. So we should look more into the existing plans rather than making new ones.
Okay, now we can move to Sneha. Yes, Sneha?
Ma'am, KCC credit cards norms can be eased out by making awareness and also implementing law, and also fix MSP is a big point actually, ma'am. And they should also implement every law up to ground level. And ma'am, they should give small provision in banks.
Okay. Next, we would love to hear Lavanya. Yes, Lavanya, do we have you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. As I said before, the Kisan credit card is very useful for the farmers since it increasing the income of the farmer by 35%. And by easing out it and allowing the banks to give the loans for a certain percentage, but sometimes the banks may not give loan for the farmers. At that time, it would be better to have a separate scheme for them to give them loans and support them like insurance. But canceling this and having bank loans is not better, ma'am. Having a separate scheme for the farmers is good, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Lavanya. Next, I would love to hear Pragati.
I would just agree with the Tarini, the point that KCC is a very good scheme and it is just increasing the farmers also. The surveys that has been conducted about the KCC also are very positive about the card, but also the farmers had stated their problems earlier that KCC offers quite a low interest, that they are very happy with the system, but they want an increase in the interest in the system of the KCC, and also they wanted to cover a more range of the things that it offer loans on by the banks. Moreover, the applying process of the KCC for some farmers, not it is not very difficult, but still they are asking that if there could be a less documentization, and for the farmers like who don't have their own land, like they have taken some land on lease uh, or or other things, they could also be facilitated from the system, because the systems become sometimes quite complex for the farmers. So the KCC is overall a very good scheme that the government should look into it, and should also take inputs from the farmers from the ground level, and could just elaborate the system more.
And also, like in KCC scheme, there's also a provision, like there's insurance coverage for KCC scheme holders, like up to rupees 50,000 in the case of permanent disability or death, and a cover of rupees 25,000 is also given in case of the other risks. So this is also a like major highlight. Then
Yes, ma'am, I want to say something.
just a
Ma'am.
second. Next,
will
I
I'd
would
also like to
I think
add on
the
something.
Ma'am,
just a
now
second,
may I-
I
guys.
would like to say something.
Guys, hold on. Just
Ma'am,
raise
I
your
also.
hands. Then, if I tell your name, अगर ऐसा chaos मचाओगे तो I'll just remove all of you. Okay? So just maintain some decorum. So next, I would love to hear Srijani.
Yes, ma'am. They were saying that the KCC scheme would raise their monthly income by 35%. And the farmers will be able to afford the purchase of seeds, the fertilizers, and the pesticides beside the production needs. But the farmers do not do that. We usually see that some farmers, they use this money to for their child's marriages, for their daughters or their sons' marriages. So the government can implement these schemes, but they must ensure that they do not use it for any other purpose. That is, they should not use it for other than for agriculture.
Okay, now I would love to hear Shraddha. So Shraddha, I would like you to answer this question. Like according to you, how can EdTech and artificial intelligence provide solutions to many farmers' problems? So what do you think about it, Shraddha?
Yes, ma'am. So the biggest problems that farmers face itself is uncertainty. Uncertainty about everything. Uncertainty about weather, uncertainty about the climate, uncertainty about how much the production they will get, the quality of seeds they'll get. So what I think is agriculture technology is basically technology that is used in agriculture. So we can obviously have program devices such as AI, which helps increase the crop production, which might help to predict the accurate climate which is going to come, decrease the water, and if there are any pesticides attack or pesticides outcome, something like that, they can warn about those systems. So yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you, Shraddha.
Ma'am,
Next,
I'd like to
Raman,
add on something.
I would
with
like
your
to
permission.
add to Shraddha's point.
guys hold.
Okay, ma'am.
Guys hold.
Ma'am,
Ramit, please go ahead.
thank you, ma'am. AI helps in empowering agriculture, healthcare, infrastructure, and addressing urban issues. AI based on agri-tech applications are set to unleash the value in agriculture, especially in the wake of recent farm reforms. We have seen that it has means very good effect on it, and the growth in agriculture output and productivity is enhanced by the investment in technology also. Use of technology in agriculture will improve the farmers' access to market inputs, data, advisory, credit, insurance, etc. There are many things, and with we with this we have many means of sensory photographs, phones, IoT devices, drones, and satellites can be used in analyzing data of agriculture, which will help in means uplifting the level of agriculture. Like pesticides will be, uh, we can use pesticides with the help of AI. It will
Yes,
make
and
our
also
work
we can also
easier
use
also.
like big data analytics. For example, like in India, when the monsoon season is delayed, the farmers are not able to grow crops. So,
Yes,
like
ma'am.
the farmers are not able to pay the debt, and hence because there is no income. So here, like big data can help in collecting the information on every climate and thereby help the farmers to reduce the risk. So yes,
Ma'am, also, there are many benefits of AI, as we know, managing environmental challenges with the use of weather forecasting, soil and crop health monitoring system, and predictive analytics and precision farming. AI enables system to assess from data and detect pests also very easily. This is very quick ways we know, and sustainable farming is a very appreciable point in this.
Right.
Exactly.
So,
AI has been
Mansi,
beneficial.
Mansi, go ahead.
Yeah, we can see from articles, data, everything that AI, e-commerce, agri-tech has helped USA and China transform their agricultural structure hugely, boost their production, better inputs. So what I think is that technology provides accurate data. The accurate data can be used to determine the best seeds or other agri products, which can be used to get optimum results. As you said, AI can be used to predict weather conditions, and farmers can strategize accordingly. Thirdly, the problem of droughts and floods is very common in India, and the farmers often face heavy losses because of that. So, using technology, we can have optimum irrigation systems that help the farmers fight the effects of droughts and ensures water supply even in case of natural calamities. Technology can also help in building cold storage facilities, and preventing post-harvest losses. So AI, e-commerce, ENAM, which has been included in the first bill, this can all help the Indian farmers greatly.
Right. Next,
Yes,
we would
ma'am.
love to hear Manasvi.
May I have a bit small
Manasvi?
point. Can I?
No.
Yes,
Manasvi,
ma'am.
let
Obviously.
Manasvi speak.
Miss,
Okay, ma'am.
ma'am, to this, I would like to add to Shraddha's point that there's a lot of uncertainty when it comes around agriculture. And I would also like to add that we are talking about the marginal farmers, but what about the farmers who have the capital to, adopt to new agriculture technologies? We should try making the farmers who are better than the marginal farmers the best. We should also think about them. We should not marginal farmers are the majority, and the farmers who can have a good producer who have a good capital, they are the minorities. So thinking about the majorities, we should not also neglect the minorities. So there are various new agricultural techniques like hydroponics, aeroponics, aquaponics. These are the type of agricultural practices which involve a one-time investment. So the farmers who have the capital to invest them, it has like a really good amount of profit percentage. Like if we evaluate the profit percentage of traditional farming and farming done by these ways, there's about 60% of increase in the profit margin. So I think these new technology or agricultural tech can help the farmers who are better than the marginal farmers, so that can help in that aspect too.
Okay. Next, we would love to hear Lavanya.
Yes, ma'am.
Lavanya, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. This artificial
Lavanya, I suppose you are stuck.
Can I say?
Shall I go ahead and say something?
Yes, Lavanya, आप mute पे हो. Just unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Artificial intelligence in agriculture, not only helping in the farmers to automate the farming, but also to shift the precise cultivation for higher crop yield and for the better quality while using fewer crops. So companies involved in improving machines like learning artificial intelligence based products or services like training data for agriculture. Drone has a squirrel technology, and which collect the data from the field of the farmer, and it is converted to the USB drive to the drone, and experts can analyze the field and they can solve the problems of the farmers, man. So this AG-Tech and artificial intelligence plays an important role in the good farming.
Okay, thank you, Lavanya. Next, we can hear from Bagisha. Yes, Bagisha, do we have you here?
I would like to say something.
Just let her speak, then we'll come back to you.
Okay, ma'am.
Yes, Pagisha, please go ahead.
I agree to Lavanya's point. She's very much right in this because I've been saying that they should take some initiatives towards this.
Shall I add on
Okay.
the point?
Just a second. We'll go with Akshiti.
Okay, so definitely, I will completely 110% agree that artificial intelligence has been proven to be beneficial for many sectors, not only agriculture, and it is actually very helpful. So the agricultural robots that are built, they are built in order to deliver high valued application of AI in the mentioned sectors. Now, with the global population soaring, the agricultural sector is facing a crisis. But the AI, the artificial intelligence, it has the potential to deliver the much needed solutions. Now, AI based technologies, which were further elaborated by the other speakers, the solutions that they provide, they have enabled the farmers to produce more output with less input and even improved quality of the output. And thus, it ensures faster go to market for yielding the crops. By 2020, the farmers have used 75 million connected devices all over the world. And by 2050, it is believed that the average farm is expected to generate an average of 4.1 million data points survey day. Now, this definitely has to be implemented in India too. We have to take forward the AI regarding the farming, not only for the farmers belonging to the richer farmers, but the government has to take care that the AI and proper facilities are provided to all of the farmers belonging to all of the various sections so that maximum output of perfect quality is ensured.
Okay, next we can move to Devam.
Ma'am, so when we talk about the agrotech and the AI-based systems, I think the main understanding that needs to happen here is that why do we need AI and this agrotech industry in the first place? Now, we have to understand that this is needed by the farmers so that the cost of production reduces, and so that when they sell it in the APMCs or to the private stakeholders, their profit margin increases. Now, here is the problem. The problem is, for a farmer who is working on a very low level, how does he get the money to purchase the AI based systems? Now, this is where the role of the government jumps in, and this is where the role of the credit facilities comes in, right? Now, in this particular scenario, the role of credit facilities is very important because these are needed to buy the required AI mechanisms. Now, even the KCC has certain problems. Let me highlight those. The first is the KCC gives out the particular loans based on the agricultural income of that farmer. So a farmer who incomes more can get more loan. But don't you think this is unfair? Because for a small farmer, he cannot go and apply for a KCC loan just because he is a small farmer, so that entrepreneurial basis is not present. And secondly, most of the KCC schemes require a collateral. Now, how do you expect a small farmer to have a collateral against which he's going to claim? So from all in all, we can understand that while the government is trying, the intent is good. The implementation part is what needs to be stressed upon on a very major scale.
Implementation and yes, education also, like spreading awareness. Like the farmers को मतलब जैसे government rules बनाती है, regulations बनाती है, but the farmers are not aware कि वो कैसे वो schemes होती हैं, जो rules and regulations होते हैं, कैसे वो avail कर सकते हैं उनके benefits. Like the farmers are not aware, right? So spreading awareness and educating the farmers, कोई bill बनाने से पहले, I feel that is more important, right?
Right.
So next, we would love to hear Devam is just a second. Next, I would love to give chance. Devanshi, I suppose. Sorry, Kanishka. Kanishka Gandhi. Go ahead.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, so according to me, if we use agricultural technology and artificial intelligence, it can be a great help to the farmers. But we need to educate them for their use, because technology cannot be used without education. Intelligence cannot be put in a right direction without education. They surely help farmers. They are helping farmers, and This is one thing that helps farmer even with their biggest problem, and even with their smallest, like minute grassroots problems. This helps them to increase the overall yield per hectare. They also increase the quality as well as the accuracy of produce, which we commonly known as precision agriculture. This basically helps the farmer's biggest problem of weeds, diseases that gets to the plants. This helps to get the rid of that. And and we can see that precision farming is coming in nature of people a lot, which is basically the use of satellite farming or specific crop management, in which we look the behavior or observation, measuring response to inter and intra variable crops. So if the proper education is given for this, then the farmers could do a lot more better than what actually is going on right now.
Right. Next, moving on to the next question. The farmers' protest has now been a really long thing, like in the country, and it has been discussed in the international news also. So, how do you think that delaying it more can have an impact on India's international image? So, Lavanya, what do you feel about it?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. Even if this was continued, the others from other countries may comment on our country. So now itself, they are many are in social medias. They are talking about these issues, ma'am. But mostly, what I noticed is many are supporting to the farmers instead of that three laws, ma'am. They are saying that the uh, the the government is only focusing on the cooperative instead more focusing on the needful for the farmers. So so completing this soon is a good, ma'am, so that others won't be involved in our decision making. So that would be better, ma'am.
Okay, now Ashish, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Um, it's very real that across all countries this news has gone out, and we see that so many universities and so many people have come out to speak in favor of the farmers. But we see, through the U.S. Department of State, they came out in favor of the government. So we do see that so many times, people from outside, especially not related to the government, they are coming out in favor of the farmers, while the governments are so far staying in favor of the government of India. But this is not going to be, I don't think it's going to be forever, because at some point we're going to realize that pressures are going to be upon us, not just from international eyes. And I do understand that, internationally, we shouldn't be pressured into a decision that may be wrong. But I believe that there is sense in it, because as much as we try to, logically and, thinking of economics and everything, we understand that, yes, this is a policy that is good to apply to the people. This is a policy that's going to bring a stronger economy for India tomorrow. But still, unless you appeal to the psyche of the people, the policy is not going to succeed. That is what we're trying to do at this point. When the government should have been sending people to negotiate and speak to the farmers, instead they sent the police forces. I think that was where the farmers started to feel we are being neglected, we need to march to Delhi. Now, I understand there were atrocities committed on that journey. I understand that we blame, some of us, or many times we do blame the farmers for the wrongs that were committed on that journey. But that was the point of desperation to which we drove them. And if I just get to speak once today, because this is the first, it would be that one thing that I can express faith in my government, express faith in the farmers, that whichever party they are from, whichever party, whether I support that party or not, they are a representative government of the people, and they can come to a place of negotiation with their farmers. And I know that, we have seen 11 discussions that have failed. But it is at no point that we are allowed to say that this negotiation is not working, that we have to go on to, suppress the revolts, or we have to take away these rights of the farmers. As an MSP, I could tell you, if I was a farmer and I did not have a place to sell my products, if I was a small farmer without those places where I could, protect myself, basic economic protection, I would not survive. I certainly would not survive. And as I, feel that wherever we are, we have 25% of the world's small scale farms are in India. 25% of the world's small scale farms. And if we think economically, yes, economically it's better to have large scale farms, and where everything can be done very efficiently. But do you realize that our brand of the Indian brand is to accommodate these people, and to understand that these people are, yes, they have small farms because of the generations over which those farms have been divided. For various reasons, they have tiny little farms, but still they are doing their very best to be effective. And it is these people who are the representation of India, who do their best to, bring about an economic change. This is what we are trying to save. We are not trying to achieve a political agenda. We are trying to achieve a humanistic agenda. At this point, it is no longer, yes, economics is involved in it, but when you think of the people, think of those lives who are dependent on these decisions. Think of the families that are dependent on these decisions. All these decisions that we talk about, we must realize that as a people who will elect, perhaps some of us are voters, perhaps some of us are yet to be, but we are responsible to them. We have to take an oath of social responsibility that these people do deserve a chance to be heard. And whether or not we think it is economically viable, these people's opinions matter. These people's positions matter. These people's livelihoods matter.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Next, we would love to hear Aditya.
Ma'am, before that, I had a question.
First of all,
just a second. Just let Aditya speak, then we'll get back to you, okay?
First of all, we should understand what is an international image. Which country have a better international image, China or Brazil? We know that Brazil is much better in the image, as many countries today do not like China. A communist government, no democracy. But what is the position of China in terms of economy, in terms of defense, in terms of power? China is much, much better. It can finish the Brazil. It has so much power. Now it is competing with the world's most greatest country, America, and Russia also. It has so much power. But what about image? No image. Nobody likes China, but still power. In 1979, the Chinese government on the square killed many students by calling army. At least India is not doing that. But still, after that also, many MNCs invested in China. Many countries are still investing in China. And this
Okay. I suppose he's stuck. Okay. Then we'll do one thing.
Ma'am, may I?
Aditya, yes, go ahead. You're back, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I think that this image does not make a very large difference, because the main part, we need support from the governments of the country, not the people of the country. Like somebody said that, Ashish said that the American government, the state government supported India. Now we need the support of the government. When there will be a war, the government will send the army, not the people. And like I've given the example of China, image doesn't very much. The China killed the students in 1979 on the public square. Still, many MNCs are investing in China, and further in future they will also invest. And now, as we have seen after the pandemic, many countries are blaming China for that. But still, China is very developed country, and it is much developed than those who have a better image. So image doesn't make very much difference. The power, the economy, and how strong you are, how strong your defense is, that makes the difference.
Okay.
Can I add on to his point?
Ma'am, can I?
Yes, Akshati, please go ahead.
So what he said was China does not care about its international image. I would like to focus on the point that India is not China. India is a developing country. India is not as rich as China. Does not have as much resources as China. So India needs to take care of its international image, because India needs the support of other countries. China ke upar, if everybody goes against China, China is fine because China is that powerful. India is not. So we need the other countries to have a good image of our country, so for them to support us. Now, regarding the bill, there were earlier the trade bills that were implemented in Bihar in 2006. It was later abolished because of its failure. And so a lot of new, we had learned a lot about that because it was regarding the APMC only. So Punjab and the Haryana farmers are basically the richest farmers in India, and that is due to the APMC mandis that are there. And so the main focus of the government should be to make these APMC mandis better, so that, as Ashish said, that we need to hear what the farmers want. We need to focus on what they are telling us. We need to hear their demands. And that is true. And so many of the demands that the farmer organizations have put up, we need to make sure that the government is listening to that. Communication is the key. Neither of the sides are ready to budge. After 11 discussions, still failure has happened. So the government has to take a step forward, and they need to negotiate with the farmers. It is not कि मैं भी नहीं करूँगा, तू भी नहीं करूँगा, तू भी नहीं करेगा, तो बीच में पूरा deadlock आ जाएगा and nothing will happen. So that is not a good thing that is happening. So the international image of India has been affected very much, and a lot of people are talking about this. So I think the government needs to take this seriously, and they need to come to terms with what the farmers want and negotiate with them, so that this thing is faster resolved.
Okay, now Shraddha, please just go ahead.
I want to add.
After Shraddha.
I also wanted to.
Okay, we'll just go one by one. After Shraddha, we'll take you one by one. Okay, Shraddha, please go ahead.
Yeah, so we all know that agriculture is the backbone of Indian economy, and that more than 50% of India's population, they are working in agriculture sectors, and that more than 80% of them are also the small farmers. But what I am saying is 50%, there are so many farmers which are protesting against the government for something that they demand, for something that they think it is necessary for their survival. And I also support them, well, because we have to agree with the farmers, because the government, we have to agree with the farmers since the government side is also real. And what I'm saying is there has definitely been a definite impact that has made on the international front because of India's image. So the faster this thing is resolved, I think the better it is for everyone.
Okay, thank you, Shraddha. Next, we would love to hear Ramit.
Ma'am, delay is preferable to error. Don't gamble on the future. Act now without delays. One day's delay is another day's lack of progress. Delay in the energy of program is very harmful. The need of NR is to settle the issue between farmers and government. So many farmers are sacrificing their lives for the state and farmers. It is very high time to bridge up the gap between government and farmers. Otherwise, the situation will be worsen in the future. If independence can be achieved by dialogues and peaceful negotiation, then why can't issues of farm bills? Lingering is not a solution. It will tarnish the image of India. Therefore, no time. Delays have dangerous ends. We have to remember this.
Okay, now we can hear Srijani.
Ma'am, after that, may I speak?
I was also waiting.
Ma'am, about this, I think the differences between the government and the farmers should be resolved through a dialogue. Both the parties should have a face-to-face conversation. If nobody comes forward, then we cannot resolve this problem. They have to sit together and they have to ponder upon these issues. The farmers have to cooperate with the government, and the government in return, they have to hear their pleas and grievances. So I think a mutual understanding is really needed.
Okay, thank you. Next, we can move to Vihan. Yes, Vihan, do we have you? Okay, I suppose he's not there. We can move to Sneha.
Okay, ma'am. So, according to me, it will have bad impact because it has already delay. If more delay, it will give chance to other country to say that India Republic is not listening, right, to their public or farmers in other countries. These matter are solved not very easier, but they solve in given time. But India government is not solving, so that's all about my point, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Thank you, Shreya. Shreya. Now, Ashish, I would like to ask you a question. I would love to hear views on this. The biggest problems in this world have been solved with dialogue. Dialogue. Even our country got independence like that. So, how do you agree that listening to both sides and having a mature dialogue can also bring a solution to this problem? Yes,
Yes,
Ashish.
yes, I do agree. I do agree that we need to have dialogue. And it's not just any dialogue, because for the last 11 discussions, we've not had a successful result. But what does this mean for us? What does this mean? Does this mean that dialogues themselves fail? Or does this mean that we need to do better at it? I think, our government and the farmers need to come to a place of compromise. And the problems that we see here are from both sides, because the farmers have explicitly stated we are not going to accept commissions or decisions from the Supreme Court that oppose our side. I think this is because they have probably lost a lot of their faith in the government since the beginning of the protests, when they were not heard. That needs to be rekindled. That feeling that my government is working for me, or I can speak to my government. And on those lines, the government at the same time needs to remember its duty as a democratic government. It's a high honor to live up to that. And it's a huge thing to be a government of a democratic country, because you're expected, especially a country like India, you're expected to hear billions of voices, millions of voices, each one differing. And at this time, it is important for them to consider where our priorities are. And yes, our priorities are that our economy should grow, that our people should be happy with everything should be fine. But at the same time, these few people, the marginalized, the weak, that is what India was founded on. I think it's not about today it's difficult for us to understand it, this generation. And especially considering that many of us are in our own little bubbles, not exposed to that side of the what's going on with the farmers. But I've always been taught to be grateful to them, because everything that we eat came from there. And we need to realize that the question we're asking ourselves now is, what can we do to bring a peaceful answer to this problem? And I think that needs both sides to give up something that they have desired. The farmers have to give up their immediate demands like that, and the government has to say, yes, I will listen to you, and do it and live up to that. It's not something that yes, these decisions are perhaps been viewed economically and been decided that yes, this is going to be beneficial in the future. But today's farmer is going to find it extremely difficult. And I don't think the national economy will suffer very much if we see all these small farmers getting, completely wiped out and made into bigger farms. But still, it's the spirit of the thing. It's the spirit of the thing that, what does India stand for? What do we stand for? We stand for those weak, marginalized people who do not have a voice. And now at this time, when they're trying to raise their voices together to the government to say, listen, for this is what we truly desire. This is what we can do to make our place better. This is what we can use to make our environment, what we give to the economy better. And that is the question that we ask. We must ask ourselves, and we must say that, yes, we're going to listen. Because it is only through this dialogue and debate that anything comes out. That even today, when I listen to this exchange, I find that, all of us of such differing views have come together. And some of us have views, different views. Each of us have different views. And the very admirable fact is that at the end of the day, we would say that, yes, this has been enriching. And imagine if this was something that the government could do with the commissions. And I know it's getting increasingly politicized every day. And the longer we wait, the more difficult it's going to be to sort out. But it's not a question of power or privilege, of the government. It is a question of my service to the people. And that is a responsibility that we as citizens take to elect those kind of people to office. And yes, I believe that is the kind of government that we have. Whether or not I support the party, whether or not we as a whole support the party, we know that the government will work well for the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you. Next, we would.
I want to add.
Just a second, guys. Next, after Bagisha, we'll have you Lavanya. Okay. So, Bagisha, just go ahead.
Ma'am, may I speak after Lavanya?
Yes. Just wait for your turn. Bagisha, do we have you here?
Yes, ma'am.
Please go ahead. Please share your views on this.
Ma'am, I totally agree with Ashish that yes, a dialogue can even change or can be a solution to this problem. Because as we know.
Yes, go ahead.
So as we know that even we got our independence with this one dialogue, and we have learned from the history of India that yes, these words can change the world, even can impact a lot. Not only in the world, small every day, any small word or any small sentence can change a person's life. So I do agree with Ashish, and that's all.
Okay, next we can hear from Lavanya. Yes, Lavanya, go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. If the one dialogue should solve the problem, I would say that setting up contract forming institution, ma'am. So the government should establish a contract forming institution in India, so with the exclusive right to oversee price discovery in contract forming. So the contract forming has been instrumental in many countries. So the thing that is so all over the total remedy for this complex issue is to the Indian government along with the entire farm sector like Indian and foreign corporate buyers and the farmers themselves and the intermediates, the middlemen. Everyone should must commit the large scale contract that would change this problem and solve, and it will give some solutions for this issues, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, Lavanya. Then we can go with Ramit.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, after him, can I?
Ma'am, I want to say, how can we forget the great dialogue? Jai Jawan, Jai Kisan. Never fear to negotiate. Successful negotiation is not about getting to yes. It's about mastering no and understanding what the path to agreement is. Everything is negotiable. Everything is little bit of give or take. During negotiation, it would be wise not to take anything personally. Just leave personalities out of it and see opportunities more objectively. And government and farmers both should have come forward to settle this issue as soon as possible. The god of fields is lying on the roads of Delhi and near areas. It's very shameful for India also. And let us move from the era of confrontation to the era of negotiation.
I would like to point out something.
Okay, just a second. We can move to Mansi.
Yes, saying something. Thank you. Yeah. I quite agree with what Ashish admirably said, that yes, it is taking time and 11 discussions have failed. But the very fact that we are continuing to negotiate is actually highlights a successful color of our democracy. That we are ready to listen, that yes, deliberation is taking place. We are not able to come to a decision. But the very fact that we are listening to them is something that makes us that very democratic country we are. So, and I believe that a mature dialogue, reaching a common consensus and finding a middle ground is the only way that this issue can be resolved. And as both sides are staunch with their demands and decisions, certain compromises are needed by both bodies on specific issues. I can understand why the government refuses to legalize MSP. But if so, then they do need to legalize some other guarantee clause in order to provide an assurance, a legitimate sense of security to the farmers that yes, we are there. In cases of natural calamities, we are there. At the same time, the three farm laws are very much required if agriculture in India is to be made more structured, and the corporates will play an essential role in this. However, here too, the government needs to keep a close watch on the implementation and needs to intervene if advancements take a detour, if farmers are exploited, because the voices of the farmers, the weak and the marginalized, is the voice of India. The vision the vision of the government of an open free market is an alluring one, but to the small farmer struggling to make ends meet, it is unfathomable. Thus, the farmer needs to be progressively, in a slow fashion, be taken towards this vision and not be pushed towards it. And in this manner, I believe, slowly but steadily, both the farmers' concerns can be tethered to and the government's vision of a free open market can be attained only in this way.
Okay, next we would hear Kanishka.
Thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, I think yes, dialogue is very important, and we just don't see it at the national, international level. We can see in our daily lives that how just speaking to someone, telling someone our problems, getting someone's review can solve problems of our life. And then when it comes to the national level, ma'am, dialogue is important, as we have seen from our history. That dialogue does not mean that we need to say what we want. We need to hear what other people are. Then we need to fight. That I'm saying this, and you need to agree on. No, dialogue is when you put your admancy aside, when you accept someone's point, when the other person accepts your point of view, when you both consider something to be important, when you both consider that now we need to do something. It's not just about the government, it's not just about the farmers, it's now about the country. We both are the people of this country, and now we need to do things together to contribute to the country. When this thinking comes to the mind that we do not want कि हम just our wish to be completed, our wish to be listened, when we agree that other person's review, other person's thought are also indulged in our thoughts, then a better and a very nice conclusion can be made. Because even when we see a small pin, there are different views to look at that pin. One person looks with other view, one person. So when you take those all views together and try to communicate with each other, that communication basically leads towards a good conclusion. So dialogue plays that important role which you cannot reach with fights, wars, protests, because somehow they undermine the unity that the country has, that the people have, and then it questions that whether the way we thought things are going to go, is it right? Are a vision right? What are we doing? Is it right? Then you question yourself. So dialogue is very important because it provides you a definite way to go with the thing.
Okay, then we would hear Manasvi.
Yes, ma'am, I agree with all of them, all of their point that dialogue is really important. And I also would like to point one thing that like violence is taking place from both sides. The government is sending police to suppress the protests. I would like to say our father of nation Mahatma Gandhi is used as an epitome of non-violence, and in our country where we have a father of nation who promotes non-violence all over the world, and violence is taking place for a protest which has been uh, you know, elongated for more than 1 year now. I think it is very saddening, and at the same point of time, dialogue is really important. Understanding the psychology of person who has a different point of view from them, and evolving yourself. You should be dynamic. You should be ever changing. It is then only you're going to adapt to changes and be a better human being. So I think it is really important to understand the psychology of people too, and the government needs to live up to the the people's expectations. Then only the government will be a successful government. Otherwise, the government is going to fail its people. So I think it is really important that the government does something which is right for the people and which is accepted by the people.
Okay, next we would hear Tarini.
Ma'am, I would first like to say that peace at any cost is cheap. No matter at how many point of time will happen, we need to make the peace happen. If this violence continues, then I don't know what will happen to India. So whatever we need to do, we need to be mature about this discussion. This is a very delicate topic that we're discussing today. So both the government should be aware about it, about what the three bills are, what amendments they can make. This everything is because of miscommunication. The government didn't receive any inputs. They didn't ask any inputs from the farmers. And when the government is asking what inputs do we want, the farmers are refusing to answer and instead saying that we want the MSP to be legalized. So what I'm trying to say is that both the parties should be bare about what they want. Then this piece may be resolved.
Okay, so
shall I add on to the point?
Ma'am, I also wanted to add on.
Yes. First of all, we'll go with Pragati. Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, as the questions you have stated that our country also got independent through dialogues, but I would just like to point out that the dialogue was the last step of the independence, and there was a complete struggle behind the story. So, as in this case, also we see that the farmers are protesting, and the dialogue is the ultimate solution for this protest also. And India, being a very diverse country, not only in culture but also in its occupation, we see various occupations, and farming being more than 50% people occupation holds a big stake. Also, the farming is like very much concerned that it has a very less contribution towards the GDP right now, and the laws that the government has brought up are focused more to increase the farming's GDP in it. So, what the real problem with negotiating even after the 11th round, that nothing is coming up, is like the peoples are keeping their egos with them. The farmer leaders that are talking with the government, and also the government representatives are not ready to listen to each other. Like if two peoples come there, sit and just speaks, and they're not ready to listen, they have just closed their ears and they are just speaking on. Like if we all 16 people over here are discussing and go on speaking our own views, I'm not listening to what the previous speaker said, and we are not understanding each other's point of view. Sometimes the government has to step into the farmer's shoes and see from their point of view their insecurities, and also the farmers need to understand what the government is doing is for their benefits also, so they will listen to them. The farmers should have trust in the government. Moreover, the government should also try to bring up the policies so that the farmers feel that the government is for them, and as in this democracy we live, the government is for us, it is made by us. So it isn't that we are living in a monarchy or some kind of dictatorship that the government cannot deal with the problems. It's just that we need to be a little more maybe open to the need of the people, what the currently government is quite ignoring. And also the farmers are not like they are just coming there and they're like, we'll do a dharna inside there. They're not ready to talk to them. That their problem is the leaders should be more open from the both sides. The leaders should be more open to each other and not just taking their egos with them in each meeting.
Okay, so
I would like to add on to
who is this?
Akshita.
Okay, Akshiti. So, guys, just be quick, make it to the point, because, like, looking at the constraint of time, we'll just wrap up this discussion. Okay.
Definitely, the lack of communication is a big problem here. Neither of the parties are ready to budge or make any compromises whatsoever. I would also like to highlight some of the major problems that were with the three bills. None of these bills were actually sent to the committees for their input or suggestions. Earlier in history, we have seen that cases like the protection of the plant varieties and farmers' rights bill of 1999 was referred to a joint committee of the Lok Sabha as well as the Rajya Sabha. And the Seeds Bill of 2004 was referred to the Standing Committee on Agriculture. However, none of something like that was not done regarding the three bills of 2020. So they were passed in a hurry and they were not sent to any committees for their suggestions. So the RSS affiliated BKS, that is the Bharatiya Kisan Sangh, they have demanded that these bills should be sent to the Standing Committee on Agriculture, and they have to question why is the government hurried so much to pass these three bills. Why didn't they deliberate on them? Why didn't they properly discuss them in the Rajya Sabha and the Lok Sabha? Why did they just pass it so fast?
Okay, so now Devam, just go ahead, make it crisp and to the point.
Yeah, so ma'am, I feel that while dialogue exchange is important, there is a greater moral to be understood in this particular regard, and that is the fact that the lack of communication between the government and the farmers, right? Now we see that we all know that the intention of the government with these current farm bills was not very bad, right? Because the government would never want to harm or bring out with a policy that would harm the farmers at the end of the day. The intention was good. However, due to the lack of representation of the farming sector and due to the lack of exchange of dialogue between the think tanks and the farming industry, the government could not understand what was the basic problems of that was existing in the agricultural structure. So they suggested solutions without even understanding that what were the major predicaments from their side. So as a result of which there was this communication gap, and that ended up with a farm bill which was not even accepted or supported by the farmers for whom it was intended to. So the biggest moral of the story is there needs to be proper representation of the sector towards which you're creating the law, right? There needs to be a preceding exchange of dialogue between the think tanks, let's say the Niti Aayog and the different farming organizations that are existing in Haryana and Punjab. So this exchange of dialogue is what going to foster the development at the end of the day for a country as diverse as India. That's it.
Okay. So yes, now after this we come to the end of discussion. So it was great discussing
just
with.
1 point more.
Okay, Aditya, you want to say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just go ahead.
Along with dialogue, we also need to know how the practical situation would look like when these laws are applied. So the best way to end the protest that under the Supreme Court committee, these laws should be applied on a trial basis for 2 to 3 years, and it is not necessary to apply in the whole India. For some parts also it can be applied for 2 to 3 years. It should be applied on the trial basis. And what are the reviews that should be taken by the Supreme Court committee and Niti Aayog, and that all should be collected, and after studying them all we should make the required changes in the laws. And then we should also ask from people how new changes are required, and then we should enact a new law with some changes, and that would be much better because the practical situations sometimes differ very much from the theoretical situations.
Okay.
Ma'am, I want to add something.
Who is this?
Ma'am, Ramit here.
Okay, Ramit, go ahead.
Ma'am, I want to add that he said that on trial basis we should try these laws. Then I want to add that there is a committee of joint point at where farmers will also take decisions and government will also. The joint collaboration committee will decide that laws will be applied or not.
Okay. So
could I also please make a quick last point?
Ma'am, I also want to.
Okay.
What I wanted to say was that while I agree with Akshati and Devam that the laws were passed hurriedly, there should have been more deliberation. Inputs from farmer unions should have been taken, but we need to see where we are now. It's not about what should have been but wasn't. It's about what could be if we try. So instead of focusing on what has happened, obviously we need to focus on that so that we don't repeat it in the future. But we should focus on what we are to do now.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yes.
So what the RSS, the BKS is demanding that these bills should be sent to the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Agriculture, and their input should be taken. So that should be done now. These bills should be reformed. There should be changes made in these bills regarding to what the farmers want so that they'll accept them.
Okay. So guys, ठीक है, वरना ऐसी डिस्कशन चलती रहेगी पूरा दिन बीत जाएगा. So after this we just wrap up this discussion. So it was great interacting with all the young minds, like listening to your viewpoints, and it was great. So thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much to all the lovely audience who have joined us for this session. And yes, so just to the lovely audience, just a reminder, so just keep supporting, keep voting, and keep subscribing to make your favorite participant win. And make sure that you hit on that bell icon and subscribe to the channel. Till then, stay happy, stay safe, stay at home, and stay away from Corona. Thank you, everyone.